darkest night to daylight. The rain-soaked street sparkling, neon lights dance to the burning flights. Those basement joints are bouncing, trading fours right up till sunrise. Rhythm changes and Cherokee, the table candles flicker in your eyes. This is where I long to be. This is what I dream. I'm gonna be just up, blowing some saxophone, grooving hard in some neon-lit bar, ain't never thinking of home. Gonna be a jazz star, flying high. Checking out the redhead, her lush lips smile and pale green eyes. Under the lights I'm glowing, the greatest chorus ever improvised. After the show we'll make out, digging tears down at the famous door, and then perhaps a nightcap. Stagger out into the misty dawn. This is where I long to be. This is what I dream. I'm gonna be just up, blowing some saxophone, grooving hard in some neon-lit bar, ain't never thinking of home. Gonna be a jazz star, flying high. She's waking up beside me, jaded memories of the night before. Her ginger curls unfurling, no greater life could ever be asked for. This is where I long to be. This is what I dream. I'm gonna be just up, blowing some saxophone, grooving hard in some neon-lit bar, ain't never thinking of home. Gonna
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Songwriting Simplified with me, Jonny Guy, on my own. Apologies for the fact that Jonny is unavailable, unfortunately, at somewhat short notice. Everything is okay. Everything's fine. He's just had to take care of some business, but he's doing fine. Nothing for us all to get alarmed or concerned about. So here we are. It's just me. Which is fine. I don't mind doing these shows on my own. It's cool. So if you have questions about songwriting, about arranging, orchestration, writing for horns, writing for strings, writing for orchestra, writing for big band, harmony, music theory, any other kind of music theory related stuff, if you got questions about that, then please stick it in the chat. Over there, I think it is. No, it's over there, isn't it? Yes, chat is over there. So, and I've just seen myself do that, which is weird. So, yeah. If you got those kind of questions, get them in the chat, and I would be very, very happy to answer and get through as many of them as I can. Granted, we have kind of moved over to my channel instead of over on Jonny's channel. At short notice, so we might not have a full house tonight, and that's fine. I guess, you know, with a smaller crowd, it means I just get more time to focus on your questions. So I would very much like to do that. Carl's asking, did I get myself a new light? No, it's still off over there. I normally have a light on this side that kind of fills the gap a little bit, because at the moment you can kind of see that this side of me is relatively well lit. This side of me, not quite so well lit. So I'm gonna have to find a way to do something about that, because at the moment my filler light is dead. So it is what it is at the moment, and hopefully I'll get it sorted out soon. Life at the moment has just been very busy, so I haven't really had a chance to go out and get another filler light, but nonetheless I will, because I've got some videos to make very soon that I need to get taken care of. So in order to be able to do that, I need the extra lighting. So yes, so they're not for my channel, they are for somebody else that's asked me to make a bunch of videos. So and they are sort of piece to camera videos. So I need better lighting than I have currently. But yes, thanks for asking about that. So let's go up and see who's here. Rich was in the house first of all. He says salut. I'm sure he doesn't say it quite like that, but anyway. And Kyle is here. Music to Motion. Sean Aaron is here. Billy Morgan is here too. Just Bob is here. I'm glad I've got some moderators. That's awesome. Kevin's Guitar Stories is here. Thomas over in the Philippines is here as well. John Edgar is here. Let's see. Rick Gran is here. He says, hi all, it's been a long time. Rick, it has been a long time, but I'm very glad to see you. Welcome back. It's cool, man. John Hawk is here. Don Oliver is here as well. And of course, Chappie over at Lockdown Band is here as well. Let's see who else is here. Secret Squirrel is here. And Paul Morgan is here. Absolutely awesome that he is here. And I'm just trying to see who else. Harley Bob is here too. Awesome. James Giannoni is here. And of course, Paraparita Music as well. And I think I have been through everybody. If I have missed your name, I apologize. I like to say hello and call people out by name and welcome everybody in. Whilst it's a small crowd, I can do that. But if you're here and you want me to say hello to you directly, then please do say hello in the chat. If you're watching and you're not engaged in the chat, then I can't do that. Here we go. Roger Beckett's here. He says, thanks for doing this, Jonny. I was on HST channel. Yes, a lot of people will have expected to be over there, and I apologize for the last minute change of plan. But it is what it is. Sometimes we have to do that. Sometimes, you know, emergencies crop up and they have to be dealt with. So that's kind of what's happened. But yeah, as I said, everything is fine. nothing for anybody to be alarmed about. But it's, life happens. And when that happens, life has to get taken care of. And, things like this show take us a back seat to those things. So there we go. So start piling in with your questions, folks. Otherwise, this is going to be a ludicrously short show. And I would not like that at all. Because I had actually planned for Jonny and I to talk about some stuff that we had talked about last year. And I just thought it would have been good to revisit that, but it's going to be a little bit hard to do that without him here. So I'm thinking we'll save that for next week. Peter Brooks is here. He says, hello! So hello to you, Peter, with the nice capital letters. Let's go. Let's see. Susan says, I've recently been learning about specific rhythms such as Tresillo and double, 3/2 song clave, hemiola, Charleston. Could share a few more examples that you recommend I study. Son clave is really, really good to study. I thoroughly recommend the study of Brazilian music of all kinds, including frevo and marcha, as well as the more traditional things like bossa nova, rumba, and samba, and mambo. I think those are all those are very well documented, and you can easily get into those. There's plenty of examples to listen to, and lots of good books on the subject as well to help you through those. But other styles, maybe like frevo and marcha, are maybe not quite so well documented. They certainly used to when I was a university student doing my my undergraduate degree in music and composition. Those kind of things were quite well documented. I had some good examples, which I'm going to have to dig out because they are like 30 years old. But I do have them, and it is definitely maybe worth doing a show on kind of world music, and maybe a couple of shows on world music, because there is such a lot in kind of what we call world music to get through and to cover that might help people kind of broaden their horizons like you are doing. Hemiola is an interesting musical technique. It's a rhythmic technique. If you're not sure what it is, it's basically placing one rhythm in the time of another. So for example, a hemiola where you have like 3/2, so you'd have like, let's say 3 quarter notes over 2 quarter notes, which produces an off-kilter effect. That's actually one of the more common ones, but there's 5/4, which is quite a good one. Let's see, what else are there that's quite interesting, quite hard to do, but sounds really, really cool when it's done really well. 7/4 is another good one. Peter Brooks is eating Chinese, he says, but I need to show that so you guys can see it. But yeah, so there's plenty of those for you to get into. Charleston is good because Charleston has a fixed kind of rhythmic figure at the end of each line, which is pretty cool. And, style of music that's now well over 100 years old, but still sounds great to this day. So yes, I would recommend those. John Hawk says, I know you spoke on it on Sunday, but I'm curious of Notion software as it relates to composing. And is the sound quality usable? It is very, very usable. And I did kind of go over this a little bit on Sunday, but the sound library for Notion was recorded by the London Symphony Orchestra and a supplementary cast of stellar international session musicians, including Roy and Victor Wooten, amongst many others who were involved in the project in, I think, 2012 or 2013, recorded at Abbey Road Studios Studio 2, I think it was, they recorded in. And I think it was all processed through the TG12345 console, which is a great console, and into, I think, one of the studio tape machines, and then was printed digitally to make the sound library. So yes, it is the London Symphony Orchestra, one of the great symphony orchestras in the entire world, recorded in possibly the greatest recording studio in the entire world, using world-class gear. So yes, it's extremely usable. And as I say, you also get guitars, electric guitars, various keyboard instruments played by the London Symphony Orchestra principal piano player, who is also a wizard. I know him personally. He no longer is with the London Symphony Orchestra, but he certainly was then. And he's also a wizard on Hammond organ and Fender Rhodes electric piano. So he did all of those as well as playing the Steinway Concert Grand that's in, I think it's in Studio 1. It's there in Abbey Road. So yeah, it's really, really cool. And there's lots of articulations. There are 6 bundled sound bundles that you get when you purchase Notion. Or if you're a member of PresonaSphere, you get Notion. You get the 6 bundles. Download and install those first. And then, when you've done that, you will also find that there's what we call the expansion sounds library, which is a whole bunch of individual sound items, for want of a better word, which are designed to augment and supplement the bundled libraries that are already part of Notion, that you get as part of Notion. And amongst them are some really cool things, like they really went to town with the percussion section of the orchestra and recorded pretty much all of the Foley and sound effects stuff that they had, which is pretty cool. So there's like sirens, there's gongs being lowered into buckets of water, there's all sorts of fun stuff, and whistles and wind machines. Plus there's also a whole bunch of extended strings and woodwinds and brass sounds, including all the jazz stuff. So you've got jazz saxophone as well as classical saxophone, and jazz brass and jazz rhythm section as well. So you kind of got like the BBC, not the BBC, the London Symphony Orchestra and the London Symphony Orchestra letting their hair down and play some jazz. So, and the jazz sounds are really good. They're just as good as the orchestral sounds. So Notion is an extremely versatile software. If you want to get to know it a little bit better and kind of see some examples of what it can do, if you go onto the Presonus YouTube channel and in the search box, type in Notion, and you'll get a whole bunch of videos, including the Quick Start Guide video series and then Notion in 90 seconds, all of which are made by the Notion product manager, a guy called Chris Swaffer, who is a good, close personal friend of mine, who I meet with work-wise for Notion development meetings pretty much every week, and I talk to him like all the time, pretty much every day. He's a great guy, and he's, by the way, for those of you that don't know Chris, he's hilarious. He's exceptionally funny. Sometimes that comes across in the videos that he makes as well, but they're really good, and he's exceedingly good at what he does. So yeah, check out those, is what I would say. If you're a member of PresonaSphere, then like I said, you already have Notion, so you can just go get it. But if you're not a member of PresonaSphere, then it's actually really well priced, and you can get it from shop.presonus.com, and yeah, and as soon as you make the purchase, it gets registered to your account automatically, pretty much in the same way that Studio One does. So yeah, it's very cool. I don't recall whether I mentioned this on Sunday or not, but one thing to remember, if you are working in Notion, plus you also work in Studio One, one of the most important things to learn, and a lot of people don't understand this, so they make support tickets on it, and it's this. The sound library that I just mentioned for Notion predates Studio One. It predates Notion Music, the company that created Notion, being acquired by Presonus, which happened in early 2014. And so the thing is, the orchestral library for Notion was created in a format that is incompatible with Studio One. So you cannot use, at the current time, you cannot use Notion orchestral sounds directly into Studio One. It won't work. They are incompatible with each other. So this is in spite of the interoperability between Studio One and Notion, which has got better and better and better since that whole concept was launched with Studio One 3.3. So great strides have been made, but the sound library will not work in Studio One. So if you are using third-party libraries and you want to bring something from Notion into Studio One, make sure that you have both libraries installed in both programs, so both in Notion and in Studio One, so that when you send your score or you send the bounced MIDI out of Notion into Studio One, everything, including all the sound variations and all the articulations and everything else and the instrument presets, all go straight over to Studio One. If you don't have them installed in the two programs, then what will happen is when you send from Notion to Studio One, you'll get a whole bunch of instrument tracks that are not assigned to anything. And so when you hit play, you won't hear your score. And then you'll have to spend time assigning sounds. So that's a really, really important thing to talk about with that. But John, that's a great question, and I'm glad you are intrigued. And just so that you know, I have been a Notion user now since 2016. Prior to that, I used Sibelius, and prior to that, I used pen and paper. I started using Sibelius in about 2009. And before that, I was just a pen and paper guy. That's how I wrote my scores. And I got pretty good at it, pretty quick at it. But the problem was a lot of the musicians that I was working with were going, "We can't read this. Your handwriting is you know the word I was going to say." And so that's when I started learning Sibelius, and then Avid bought Sibelius, and when they bought Sibelius, they kind of screwed it up and made it worse. And only just in the last maybe 3 or 4 years, maybe less than that, maybe the last 2, maybe 3 years to be precise, Sibelius has started getting pretty good again. Part of the reason was that when Avid bought Sibelius, they basically fired the development team for Sibelius that had been working on the program for 20 years. And they basically said, "Right, off you go. We don't need you anymore." And the very, very loyal Sibelius customer base basically said, "No, Avid, you cannot do that. You will not do that. We don't like that." And so the backlash was pretty aggressive towards Avid for doing that. And Avid ended up with their tail between their legs, going back to the original development team and said, "We're really sorry. We'd like to hire you back again. Is that okay?" And the developers basically said, "Yes, but it's now going to cost you twice as much." So good on them. But that's what happened with Sibelius, and that's kind of why I jumped ship. Not least because, the interoperability between Notion and Studio One, because I was already a Studio One guy, really kind of excited me, and I thought, yes, finally, a scoring software that has some good tight integration with Studio One. Yes. And so I've been excited about that ever since. And I'm sure it's only going to get better and better. Mike at Music to Motion says, "How many folks have submitted their household sounds that you created the challenge for a couple of weeks ago?" We've had a few, actually. We've had a good few, and there's a good number of samples there now. So if you have samples that you've made, please do feel free to email me. Website down below. Scrub out the wwws, which are over here, and put Jonny at jonnylipshamstudios.co.uk. Email me and say, "Hey, I would like to join the workspace for the household sounds thing," if you can't remember what it's called. And I will send you an invitation to the PersonaSphere workspace. Now, if you are not a member of PersonaSphere, that's fine. All you need is a my.personas.com account. And if you're a Studio One person or you're a Notion person, you have one of those. So you'll be fine. You'll be able to get in. But it's easier if you have a PersonaSphere account because it's just a lot easier. But yes, you still have access. Picking my nose in public. That's so bad. Chappie says, when writing a song, does having lyrics first help to develop music? Good question. Because I work the other way around, and I think it's fairly well documented that I work the other way around. Although I have, on occasion, set myself the challenge to write lyrics first and kind of see, whether that follows, whether what you suggest follows. Do I find that the lyrics kind of inform the music? And my experience of doing it that way round was that it didn't really help me that much, to be honest. But that said, what I find with me, and this will be different for everybody, is that if I start with the music first, and I just basically get the basic bare bones of the arrangement together. So just rhythm section parts for the most part. Chord changes and bare bones rhythm section ideas. So a scratch drum track, a program bass part, keyboards, and I'll just flesh it out basically. I'll just get all the bare basic parts together, and then what I do is I export that to an MP3, and I upload it to my phone, and via Dropbox, or nowadays by PersonaSphere, and I download it directly to my phone, and I listen to it. I listen to it every day for a period of maybe 2, maybe 3 weeks, and I'll just listen to it every single day. And during that time, as I'm listening, the narrative for the song starts to form in my head from listening to the bare bones. And I start creating characters, and I start creating a scenario in which to put these characters, and then basically see what happens with these characters. And once this whole story is kind of fully fleshed out in my head, then I will start singing ideas out. I'll just start verbalizing my ideas over the music, and then I start writing things down. And then from there, it's very quick. The process, once I have started to vocalize, then the process from that point to ready to record and replace my scratch tracks is very short. It does not take very long at all. So I have what I call living with it period, which is where I'm living with the song and I'm listening to it every day. And then I get to the vocalizing point, and then the rest is very, very quick. It's a matter of a couple of days, and then I'm recording. And at that point that I start recording, everything in my head is complete. The whole arrangement in my head is complete. Even if I'm still just about to just record a scratch vocal because I've already got guide rhythm section tracks. In my head, everything is already complete. And I put down a guide vocal with the guide lyrics and all of that. And then I start adding all the rest of the arrangement to it. And then I'll go back and I'll redo the vocal. And then I'll go back, and the last thing I'll do is I'll replace the scratch drum track with a real drummer. So everything else gradually gets replaced, and then the last person that gets replaced is the drum track. So the drummer gets to play with the whole arrangement, and for them it'll be like playing with the band. So the drum track sounds like it really, really fits very, very naturally. And the idea is for it to all sound like it was created live. And that's kind of my whole process. But that's a great question. John Edgar says, what can you tell us about the song production critique series with Joe and Gregor to get engaged? Do you know what? I actually know nothing about that series. I'll be really honest. I don't know anything about it. Joe kind of briefly mentioned the idea, the concept for it to me a couple of weeks ago. In passing, me, and Gregor were kind of talking about other things, and he kind of put this out there. At that point, I didn't really know very much of the details, so I don't know what it's going to be all about, to be honest. But suffice to say, it will be really good because Joe is a very, very good songwriter, and he's also a very good producer. And so he will be able to critique your songs from both angles really, really well, and he'll give you good advice. The same with Gregor. Actually, Gregor is a very, very experienced composer, and he's a very experienced producer, having worked with lots of big-name European artists. So they both really know their stuff, and will be able to give you a wealth of really, really good advice. So if you're able to, I would suggest definitely get in and get your songs submitted. I've sent songs to Joe before that I'm working on, and he's always got something really good to say and really helpful to say. So definitely, Joe's one of my really good buddies. So I would trust him very, very much with anything that he says about songwriting. Let's see. And for some reason I can't scroll up the chat. It's stuck. What's going on here? Vital Caron is here. Hello. Good to see you. Welcome. Bob's New York is here as well. Just a shout out to you, he says. Roger Beckett says, love mixing styles. Look at what Stink does. He's a genius. Yes, he definitely is. Not only is he a great wordsmith and he's a great storyteller, but he's a terrific musician. He's a great bass player. A lot of people don't realize just how good he is. I mean, he has an interesting technique in that he plays with his thumb for the most part when he's playing an electric bass. But I've seen him play upright bass, which is kind of where he got his start in the Newcastle jazz scene, as a bass player with big bands. And boy, can that guy swing when he's playing on upright. He's amazing. Really, really great bass player. Terrific vocalist. What's not to love about Sting, to be honest? But the fact that he is really good at blending different styles of music together is a really, really cool thing without underdoing either of them. Was not Mike Tilson a conductor with LSO? I think maybe you're right. I think he probably was. Just Bob says, when playing a 7-string guitar, low E and low B string, the B being the 7th string, chords, what tunings should a 4-string bass be tuned to? Should bass remain standard? Depends on what you want to do. Depends on the style. If you're talking about things like djent, for example, then you would maybe be better going with a 5-string or a 6-string bass, and having that low B string, as well as the high G string for a 6-string bass, would be high G string. Smirk mode engaged. A 6-string bass, if you're kind of into that more kind of djenty, dark metal kind of thing, then yeah. But from a mixing point of view, you're going to have to be really careful about the low end if you've got like 7-string guitars with super low tuning and open chords and that kind of thing. With a 6-string bass that's also pounding away on a low B string, you're going to have to be careful with how much low end is in your mix, without it sounding too terribly thin as well. So, yeah, that would be my advice. Go with either a 6-string or a 5-string. If you're going to go with a 4-string, keep it standard tuning, and it will be fine. I mean, you can go with drop D if you want on the bass. I've done drop D a couple of times on electric bass. Works pretty well, but I don't really play that kind of style of music. Have I ever been to Abbey Road? Yes, I have. I've worked at Abbey Road Studios. Yes. I was there many years ago. 1996, in fact. I was at Abbey Road Studios recording a film score. I now cannot remember for the life of me the film that it was, because I have recorded on several film scores. Quite a lot of film scores, actually. But yeah, I have been to Abbey Road a couple of times, maybe 2 or 3 times. Twice for work and one just for fun, because I know some of the guys that are there. Some of the mastering engineers. I know a couple of the mastering engineers, and I know one of the chief recording engineers at Abbey Road. So I have been there, and it's a beautiful studio, and it's a great place to go and record an orchestra. That's for sure, especially in Studio 2. Definitely, lovely place. And the guys are fantastic. They are hilarious. They're great fun to work with. Was Notion conceived from Sinclair? Don't think so. I'm not entirely 100% sure on the beginnings history of Notion. I can talk to Chris about that because he was there, so he would know mostly about that. And I can talk to my boss at Presonus, Brian Meisner. I can talk to him as well because he was on the Notion team as well, so he would know quite a lot of the beginnings of Notion. So yeah, I can certainly ask about that, but I don't think it came out of Sinclair. John Edgar says, what about Studio One being brought into Notion? Any issues there? No. You can send to Notion from Studio One. It's pretty easy. You can send your score or you can send MIDI. It works great either way. And then the thing again to note is that any sounds that you have used in Studio One that are native to Studio One will not work in Notion. The two have very distinctly different sound libraries. Okay. But there is a way, or at least there isn't so much anymore, but there was a way in which you could bring in the presence sounds and things like that into Notion via Rewire. But of course, Rewire has long since been discontinued and probably won't work. But you know, by all means, you can try it. There is a way to do it. But yeah, that would be that on that subject. So yeah, you shouldn't have any issues. I think I even showed it very briefly on Sunday how you can send to and from Notion and Studio One. But I am happy in future videos or future Sunday Night Lives to kind of go into a little bit more detail about sending to and from Studio One and Notion. Seeing as I kind of work with both professionally and with my job at Presonus. Excuse me. So, yeah, I work very closely with the development teams for both programs. So happy to go into more stuff on that. W5 family is here, says, where's Jonny? Jonny is unfortunately unavailable at short notice. Everything is fine, but he just unfortunately cannot be here. Sorry about that. He has to take the evening off on occasion and take care of business. Daniel West says, my Universal Control GUI stopped opening up. I don't think I made any changes to my iMac or my quantum interface. Any ideas why this would happen? No, but one thing I would recommend, given the information that you've given me there, is I would recommend uninstalling and reinstalling Universal Control and see if it reconnects with your quantum, because that's probably what's happened, is it's just not seeing the quantum. And you can uninstall and reinstall. And if you have any further problems, make a support ticket through your Presonus or your Sphere account, and one of the hardware guys will help you. They are a good bunch, the hardware guys. Let's see. Chris from Deer Creek Audio is here. He says, salute to the Murphys. Hope you're doing well. Gotta love your fishermen. Salute to the Murphys. I really don't know what you're talking about, Chris. Being that I'm Scottish and not Irish, but that's all right. No problem. Marco says 100% removal of ground loop, just ferrite cores or other trick, even without grounding in place. Possible to eliminate ground loop 100%. There are some various ways to do it. Here in the UK, we don't really have ground loop issues at all, particularly, but a power conditioner might help you get those kind of things sorted out. And also grounding in terms of your electricity would probably help as well. But yeah, other than that, if it's if that ground loop is getting into your audio when you're recording or even just playing back, then yeah, you probably want to get a power conditioner of some kind, or a transformer of some kind. Just Bob says, I have a 4-string bass and can't afford to buy another bass, 6-string, etc. So thanks for the info. Just trying to figure out how to balance them, not create muddy noise. Yeah, EQ is going to be your friend, and a little bit of parallel compression as well. Not parallel compression, sidechain compression. Sidechain compression is probably going to be your friend as much as EQ. Maybe a bit of multiband might help you, so that you can multiband compress some of that low mid area, kind of round about the, would it be kind of round about the 250 to 450 kind of area. You can do a little bit of light multiband compression, just tapping down the peaks in that area might help you as well. John Edgar says, please do a session on Studio One to Notion. Absolutely can do. Not a problem there. John Lake says, is it me or is there something wrong here? I'm not sure what you're referring to, John Lake. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what's wrong. Not sure what you're referring to. Sorry about that. Yeah, not really sure. Please do give us some more information and I'll see if I can help. Because we've got about 14 minutes or so left. So that's either going to be 14 minutes of... Maybe one thing I can talk about a little bit briefly is maybe a little bit of kind of harmony and a set of chord changes that I really like and find that they evoke a lot of emotion. And there's a video on YouTube at the moment by Charles Cornell, which I thoroughly recommend you subscribe to his channel. If you're into what I talk about music and music theory, go check out Charles's channel. It is awesome. It's filled with a wealth of information. And he did a video on where you go from chord 1. So if you're in D major, going from chord 1 to chord 4, but instead of going to 4 major, you go to 4 minor. And why it's kind of evokes a lot of strong emotion. So instead of going... He talks about going from D to G minor. And why does that evoke such emotion? And he talked about it because, going from chord 1 to 4, or 4 to 1, is what we call the plagal cadence, or it's also known as the amen or church cadence, where you go at the end of a hymn. And so he was talking about the fact that with a dominant 7 chord, so in the key of D, an A7 chord, you have these intervals that lead into the next chord by a half step. So the G for the 7th goes down to the F sharp, which is the 3rd of the D chord. So that goes down to there. But then you also have the C sharp here, which is the 3rd of the A chord that resolves upward to the D. So you get this kind of thing going on. If I strip out everything, so you just have the root, the 7th and the 3rd. Watch what happens if I resolve these two. But look what happens when we do the G minor chord and I resolve that to the D chord. What do I have here? I have leading tones, which is kind of what you call the super perfect resolution. So that's why I think, and Charles suggested this really, really strongly, and having kind of watched his video and then kind of tried this out and reviewed it for myself, I think he's right. I think the reason why that is so evocative is because you've got those leading tones that are really, really strongly leading back there. Kind of like, you know, with the leading tones here for the A7 chord. Kind of has the same power, doesn't it? So I'm going to leave that with you to think about and to try out and, you know, play about with on your keyboards or your guitars and kind of have a think about. Good grief! Music to Motion has just said 36 watching. That's fantastic. That ties with the record for a Sunday Night Live, which is 36. So that's awesome. Everybody, thank you so much for coming, and thank you so much for being a part of this sudden surprise solo Songwriting Simplified. Wow, that was alliterative show. I appreciate it. Thank you. Let's see. Super Squirrel says, please touch on leading tones and strategic uses. Leading tones are great because they always lead to a resolution, which is why they're so powerful. Which is why, you know, if you're playing a song, if I were to stop there and walk away from the piano, it would sound incomplete. The reason why it sounds incomplete is because this tension here has not been resolved. These leading tones, which lead by a semitone, have not been resolved to there. And the human ear, particularly in the Western world, with, you know, music kind of governed by the rules of music harmony according to Western European music over the last 250 or so years, or 500 years, take your pick. You know, the human ear in the West is conditioned to having that resolved. If I walk away and just leave that like that, nobody's going to like that. That has to be resolved. Even if it's resolved 6 hours later, that's still going to hang in your head until it's resolved. So that's kind of what leading tones do. Now, that's kind of related to something we call voice leading, which is where the voices within the chords, or the chord tones, or the notes within the chords, so in this case the D, the F sharp, and the C, the D, the A, the F sharp, and the A and the C sharp and the G for the A7 chord, they move by step or by half step. And so if you are moving between one chord and another to make it sound smooth and logical, even if you're using chromatic chords with quite a lot of dissonance and tension, make these voices move by step or half step. Not only because, hey, if you want to try and translate that from a piano to a choir, it will be easier to do because singers can sing better if everything moves by. If everything moves by step or half step, a singer is going to be able to sing that really quite easily. Even if it's the middle part or the upper part or a lower part. It doesn't really matter. If it moves by step, it's easy to sing. But even if you're doing stepwise motion like that, you can still use quite complex chord changes, quite complex harmony. So, you can kind of go from this E minor 11 chord to E flat 13 sharp 11 just by changing a couple of notes. And then that would lead me to D major 7 sharp 11. And then that would lead me to D flat 13. And then that might lead me to C minor 11. And that might lead me to F 13. And then I might go to F sharp diminished 9. And then that might lead me to E flat major 7 with G in the bass. And then that might lead me to E flat major 7 flat 5. And then that might lead me to F major 7 with A in the bass. And then that might lead me to B flat minor 9. And then that in itself might lead me to A flat major 7 sharp 11 over C. And then that might lead me to D flat major 7. So the thing is, all of those chords, they're really complicated sounding, and especially as I'm calling them out, you're probably thinking, he is speaking like a dentist when they're speaking to their dental assistant, and it sounds like they are speaking in a completely foreign language in code. So to you, kind of hearing me call out those chords might sound exactly like that. But what I'm doing is everything is moving by step or half step within itself to the next chord. So, there's my E flat 13 sharp 11 chord. Third, sharp 11, 13, 7, 9. And then I can move that down to the D major 7. There's the third, 5, 13, major 7, 9. Everything's moved by half step or step. And yet you've got two complex chords that lead very nicely into each other. Let's see. So I hope that kind of helps with it. Good question. I can't scroll again. Damn it. Let's see. Rich says, is that the same chap whose mother is a vocal coach? I believe that is correct. Owl is here. Owl, are you the nemesis of the vowel, perchance? Any tips on finding a bridge for a B minor A G progression? It's sort of a rock inspirational tune, looking for something to mix it up a bit. Okay, so we've got B minor A and G. Okay, so are we kind of talking medium tempo? Sharp minor. Go So you could go F sharp minor to B minor. Do that a couple of times. And then you could go like this. Walk up, E, D over F sharp, G, A, sus. And then you could either go back into your B minor if you want to. And notice what I did there is I did a little bit of voice leading. I went to the A sharp half diminished into the B minor as a little step. So and go up into the relative major, so D major, and you could pedal point. So there's lots you can do with that. Going up into the relative major might kind of provide you with a nice little kind of chorus, maybe. So yeah, give that a try. That is also Princess Leia's theme. Yes, it is. You're quite correct. Princess Leia's theme uses that quite. John Williams uses that for Leia's theme quite a bit, and it also occurs in E.T. in a couple of places, and you'll find it in Raiders of the Lost Ark as well, the Indiana Jones film. Yes, one of John Williams' favorite little harmonic devices. Rock Lens is here. He says, is the NAP plugin just for effects? Yes, it is. It is only for effects. It kind of won't work with virtual instruments. It's not designed to, and I don't think you would really want it to work with virtual instruments, to be honest. But yes, it just works with effects. Just Bob is away to dinner, which is fine. Never mind about that previous comment. Oh, that's Adam Neely. Yes, that's right. Adam Neely's mother is a vocal coach, and she's a very well-known vocal coach. Secret Squirrel says, so leading tones are transversely a statement which has implications in the same manner that certain words and inflections infer interrogatives. Example, Christopher Walken. Maybe. I think they have a more... I think they're more syntactical than that. I think they are more like integers. They are kind of integers within a sentence, so they help bind a sentence together in the way that you would use to, but, and those kind of words. Those are integers. So in the same way, in the way that you use an integer to get from one word to another. So this is what you would do to get from one chord to another. You'd move by a step or a half step, or you would do a passing chord. Passing chord would be kind of a good example of a musical integer. The way in that example I played just a minute ago, where I went from the A to the A sharp half diminished to the B minor, because actually this A sharp half diminished is substituting for E7. I would be going, it does the same job. Let's see. Or it would work, it actually works better as a substitute for F sharp, actually. the 5 of B minor. Does the same job. Okay? But yeah, leading tones kind of, it's a way of getting from one thing to another. It's 90 BPM triplets blues feel. Oh, I can do 90 BPM kind of blues feel. You know. Yeah, it's a nice kind of feel. It's good fun. Steels is here, but we're just about to wrap up the show. What would a Black Keys only song do to the mind ear? I can do that as well. And maybe I'll finish with this. Black notes only would be what we would call pentatonic. In much the same way that doing C, D, E, G, and A is also pentatonic. Hang on, I need to just adjust something on the other keyboard. 1 second. Okay, and we're back. So that's C, D, E, G, and A. If I transpose that and put that on the Black Keys, it's the same thing. And it kind of, you would be right in thinking that it sounds vaguely Oriental. So yeah, it's kind of a little bit Oriental. Oriental. Black notes can also be Dorian. No, they are not. Black notes are pentatonic because there are 5 of them. But yeah. So they can sound Oriental, they can sound a little bit bluesy as well. etc., etc. Can have loads of fun with that. Alrighty, so on that note, we will call it a night. And I just want to thank everybody for coming, because we have had a good show at short notice, and we kind of tapped out at 36, I think was our peak, which is pretty cool. I like that. And, you know, even now, we've still got like 26 people here, which is great. So thank you, everybody. Thanks for coming, and I will see you back here on Sunday for Sunday Night Live. So don't miss that. I'll take more of your questions, but we'll open it out so it's a little bit more broad, and I'll do some demos on Notion and Studio One for those that want to see those. So we'll do that, and that should be fun. All right, see you 6 p.m. Central Time, Sunday Night Live, back right here. Until then, good night, everybody.
darkest hour, standing alone when the foe has the power. We'll never falter. We cry out at the altar, digging deep with all of our might. We'll make it through this blackest of nights. We'll never crumble, even if we stumble. Counting the flames as the night sky hums, counting the times the ground above me shakes, counting for sanity's sake. The face like flint will not bow down, the spine like steel, giving no inch of ground. They'll never break us, for all that they may shake us. The sun breaks through the smoke-filled sky. From this man-made mist comes an anguished cry. The darkness is silenced. We stood up to its violence. Counting the days till the little man is gone, counting the shame of all that he has done, counting those who deserved a better fate, counting for sanity's sake. Counting the shame of all that he has done, counting those who deserved a better fate, counting for sanity's sake.